Go ahead.
First of all, for everyone, predictable. We have to prove whether policy is the best, and the 2AC evidence test proves that this means we are predictable, and we're talking about a policy option. We already see that your point about the policy option is wrong. We still discuss the mindset behind the USFG, and we get to test the app's representation and for our interpretation. And they can't wait. We get a floating pip. We can still do the plan to solve for their impacts. We rethink securitization of space and for the KBS. We solve the impacts of realism and solve the app impacts. And this solves the China advantage. When we reject security rhetoric, this fosters cooperation and prevents backlash from China. And floating pips are good, are predictable and fair. If the app can from the cane and the egg, should be able to from the app. And this forces better case writing in space and plan be specific from the 1AC and the best policy option that makes the app defend the entire plan and is key to finding the best policy option, which is best for education. And on perm to both. First, perm links it relies on the idea that the U.S. must militarize space is the exact idea we're criticizing, and the perm server is a function of the plan of the military space against the dirty Chinese. They cannot take back what they said, and it destroys negative strategy and pre-round prep, in particular. This kills fairness in education and ruins debate. It's a reason to reject the team, and evolutionary biology is false. We reject the ethos proofs. It is feasible to be peaceful, reject realism, and solve the impacts, and we only reject this one instance of security. And the plan is inseparable from the discourse of conventional geopolitics grounded in six to theorize about the relationship of politics and space wellness. Rethink the realizing that things are links at territorial state to its political space, even though he knows it is a problematic the analytical framework upon which my argument states is known as critical geopolitics, an approach which sees the fields of design and policy and security studies as the diverse space is structured by constants between specialists and experts which compete for acquisition of knowledge. And the threats aren't real, they're only justification to seek new weapons and only increases the impacts of realism. The deterrence of space domination is the false security. The research of the newest space swift from their conflict sector becomes ontology. The nation is defined by its self-propelling drive to seek whatever new weapons and threats, amplifying the conflict and rendering it inevitable. Masumi and 7. Deterrence has no margin of error. It must know with certainty because the threat is full formed and ready to detonate. The enemy has the bomb and it means to deliver. The imminence of the threat means that deterrence cannot afford to subordinate itself to other objects, norms, and criteria passed on a frontier domains. If it did, its ability to respond within an immediacy proportional to the immense of the threat would be comprised. And the only way to have the kind of epistemological immediacy necessary for deterrence is for its process to have its own cause and hold it fast within itself. The quickest and most direct way for the process to acquire its own cause and produces one. The easiest way to do this is to make the imminence of the very threat prevention is failed and neutralized and make it a foundation of the new process. And the link of moon-based securitizes China as the threat. U.S. moon-base would be used as a gatekeeper to ensure the nation cannot gain access to outer space or helium 3. The moon becomes the new Persian Gulf with helium 3's natural resources, and U.S. hegemony is spread into outer space through establishment of a moon base. That's Gagnon and 6. There's been a long military connection to NASA's moon missions. The NASA's plan has been to establish permanent moon bases and will help the military control and dominate access on and off the planet and determine who will extract valuable resources from the moon years ahead. And NASA's purchase the next phase of the space agency's exploration agenda after space shuttles are retired in 2010. And by inviting some allies to share the creation of the moon base, the U.S. also hopes to absorb entities like the countries like Japan that have announced plans for their own established moon colonies. The idea of the U.S. based on the moon is nothing new. It's secretly called the U.S. Army Study for the Establishment of a Lunar Outpost, published on June 9th. Moon-based surveillance of the Earth in space and communication relay operations on the surface of the moon. And we went into the Middle East to stabilize the oil market, and this proves securitization leads to instability and permanent the plan without security representation. 1, this means they lose all their advantages. Their advantages are predicated off the security rhetoric. Even the global warming advantage is based on self-interest. We are still trying to pursue resources for our own self-interest, and colonization still is securitizing threats and making sure the U.S. is first in space. And the 1AC securitizes nuclear terrorism as a real threat to mine the moon and beat other nations. And on to realism. They indicate that cooperation still has security, but we are not a critique of international relations. This is a key of our relation of how we engage space. And 1, their evidence assumes a critique of engagement on Earth. The 1NC McDonald evidence indicates that space is uniquely different in that it is governed by a treaty, not subject to borders that define international engagement in the status quo. And space has no geography. It has been constructed through discourse and exploration. McDonald 7. 5 centuries ago, a more expensive geographical imagination was a word tracing the intellectual building blocks of geographical knowledge. In the 16th century, writings on astrology were a clear part of geography's early modern heritage, the movements of the stars being afforded significance in the outcome of the worldly affairs of planetary scale. From the background to the much geographical teaching in the period and mapping the heavens, a task of no importance and never with which has continued to the present day. Astronomical legacy in geography has waned. The geographical legacy in astronomy has remained strong. Indeed, the term celestial mapping is still used in contemporary science parlance. Astronomical geography and has been stressed. It's not.